now adjourned. Prime Minister.
Warm cheers from the Conservative side as the Prime Minister in a grey suit is taking her place at the dispatch box. Some Labour MPs waving their order papers. Catcalls.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the House meets this Saturday to respond to a situation of great gravity. We are here because for the first time for many years, British sovereign territory has been invaded by a foreign power. After several days of rising tension in our relations with Argentina, that country's armed forces attacked the Falkland Islands yesterday and established military control of the islands. Mr. Speaker, the Governor reported that the Marines in the Defence of Government House were superb. They acted, he said, in the best tradition of the Royal Marines. They inflicted casualties, but those defending Government House suffered none. He himself had kept the local people informed of what was happening through a small local transmitter he had in Government House. He is relieved that the islanders heeded his advice to stay indoors. Fortunately, as far as he is aware, there were no civilian casualties. When he left the Falklands, he said the people were in tears. They do not want to be Argentine. He said the islanders are still tremendously loyal. I must say that I have every confidence in the Governor and the action he took. I must tell the House that the Falkland Islands and their dependencies remain British territory. No aggression and no invasion can alter that simple fact. It is a government's objective to see that the islands are freed from occupation and are returned to British administration at the earliest possible moment. The government has now decided that a large task force will sail as soon as all preparations are complete.
Here's that from the Conservative side.
HMS Invincible will be in the lead and will leave port on Monday. I stress that I cannot foretell what orders the task force will receive as they proceed. The people of the Falkland Islands, like the people of the United Kingdom, are an island race. Their way of life is British. Their allegiance is to the Crown. They are few in number, but they have the right to live in peace, to choose their own way of life, and to determine their own allegiance. Their way of life is British. Their allegiance is to the Crown. It is the wish of the British people and the duty of Her Majesty's government to do everything we can to uphold that right. That will be our hope and our endeavour, and I believe the resolve of every honourable member of this House.
Well, quite a lot of cheering there from the Tory side, but not ecstatic. Prime Minister has been speaking for about 24 minutes. Now here's Michael Foot, who only flew back from Brussels this morning.
First of all, wish to set on record as clearly as I possibly can what we believe to be the international rights and wrongs of this matter, because I believe one of the purposes of this House being assembled on this occasion is to make that clear, not only, of course, to our people in our country, but to people throughout the world. The rights and the circumstances of the people in the Falkland Islands must be the matter uppermost in our minds. There is no question in the Falkland Islands of any colonial dependence or anything of the sort. It is a question of people who wish to be associated with this country, who have built their whole lives on the basis of association with this country, and we have a moral duty, a political duty, and every other kind of duty to ensure that that is sustained. The people of the Falkland Islands have the absolute right to look to us at this moment of their desperate plight, just as they've looked to us over the past 150 years. What they are faced with is an act of naked, unqualified aggression carried out in the most shameful and disreputable circumstances. Any guarantee from this invading force is utterly worthless as any of the guarantees that are given by this same Argentinian junta to its own people. We can hardly forget that thousands of innocent people fighting for their political rights in the Argentine are in prison and have been tortured and have been debased. And we cannot forget that fact when our friends and fellow citizens in the Falkland Islands are suffering as they are at this moment. And so on the merits of the matter, we hope that the question is understood throughout the whole world. In that respect, I believe the government was right to take the matter to the United Nations. It would have been delinquency if they had not, because that is the forum where we have agreed that such matters of international right and international claim shall be stated. And I believe that the British government, whatever else it does, I come to that in a moment, whatever else it has done or not done, of course it was essential to take our case to the United Nations and to present it with all the force and powers of advocacy at the command of this country. And the decision and the vote in the United Nations is to take place, I suppose, in an hour or two's time. I must say to people there, we in this country as a whole, irrespective of our party affiliations, will examine the votes in the United Nations most carefully. Most carefully. I was very interested to hear how strongly the President of France spoke out earlier this morning, and I hope that every other country in the world would speak in the same way. If indeed at the United Nations this afternoon no such declaration were made, I know it would only be first of all a declaration, but there may be the possibilities of action there later. But if no such declaration were made, not merely would it be a gross injury to the rights of the Falkland Islands, not merely would it be an injury to the people of this country who have a right to have their claims upheld in the United Nations, but it would be a serious injury to the United Nations itself, and it would enhance the dangers that similar unprovoked aggressions could occur in other parts of the world, which is one of the reasons why we are so determined to see that we examine this matter to the full and that we uphold the rights of our country throughout the world and the claim of our country to be a defender of people's freedom throughout the world, particularly those who've looked to us for special protection, as the people in the Falkland Islands do. The bulk of this House is paramountly concerned, and I'm sure the country is concerned, with what we may do to protect those who've rightly and naturally look to us for our protection. So far, they have been betrayed, and the responsibility for the betrayal rests with the government. The government
from the Labour side.
The government must now prove by deeds, because they'll never be able, I believe, to do it by words, that they are not responsible and they cannot face that charge. That is the charge that I believe does lie against them, and I repeat and underline, even though it is the position and circumstances of the people who live in the Falkland Islands that are uppermost in our minds, and it would be outrageous if that were not the case. There is also the longer interest that we should not see foul, brutal aggression successful in our world. If that happens, it can be a danger not merely to the Falkland Islands, but to people all over this dangerous planet of ours.
In the United Kingdom, we must accept reality for all our alliances, for all the social politenesses which the diplomats so often mistake for trust. In the end, in life, It is self-reliance, and only self-reliance, that counts. Suez, when I first came into this house 25 years and more ago, surely taught us that not every ally is staunch when the call comes.